परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्या श्रीकृष्णाय नमोऽस्तु मे मदेकबन्धो मत्सङ्गीन् मद्गुरो मन्महाधर्म मन्निस्सारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोऽस्तु ते साधु साधुता दायन् अजनीचोक्षताकर आनमुञ्च कदाचिन्मां प्रेरणा हृत्कण्ठयोस्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय 2.9.4 2.9 verses 4 being very much pleased with the Lord, with the Lord Brahma, because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul. Notice this non-deceptive penance, avyalika vrata. Dr. Siddhanta Saraswati repeatedly highlighted this concept of being non-deceptive, non-duplicitous, and so on. Acharya notes that because what the Supreme Personality of Godhead says and has said is evidence, therefore, the Purana that he spoke about, I'll present it as evidence. यच्चोक्तं परमेश्वरस्य अपि देहसम्बन्ध अविशेषात् कथं तद्भक्त्या मोक्षः स्यात् इति आसीत् यत् उदरात् पद्मम् इत्यादिना सूत्राः आत्मनः जीवस्य तत्त्वविशुद्ध्यर्थं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थं तद्भवत्येव is the relationship with the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord, is generic, meaning that it is just like the relationship of the jiva with his body. Then how is it possible for one to attain liberation by engaging in bhakti to him, which was indicated in 2.8.7. So this was as an answer to that anticipated question. It says, no, certainly the Jivatma attains proper knowledge of the truth. What is that truth? That is this form. What is this? Vidvan. Right. Can you open up the machine level? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Not that. Chidd Ghanam Rupam. It's very nice. Chidd Ghanam. He showed this real form. Real form is the form which is concentrated consciousness, I mean, fully spiritual. That is the truth. That is sure. He showed. Therefore, whereas, um, this form was revealed to him when he engaged in austerities. Through that, he engaged in devotion service unto the Supreme Lord. So at that time, the Supreme Lord revealed himself. The reason for that, Avyalikena Vratena Tapasa Adritaha Sevitaha San. So when he was served with non-duplicitous vow, then he revealed himself. Ayam Bhavaha. This is the point. जीवस्य अविद्या मिथ्यारूपदेहसम्बन्धः ईश्वरस्य तु योगमाया चिद्घनलीलाविग्रह आविर्भाव इति महान् विशेषः अतस्तद्वचनान् मोक्षोपपत्तिरिति. The Jivatma, through avidya, through ignorance, has a relationship with the false form, whereas the Supreme Lord, Ishvara, through Yogamaya, he reveals his pastime form, which is concentrated bliss. So that's a great distinction between these two. Therefore, by engaging in service to him, it is appropriate that one attains liberation. Chaitanya Manjusha notes that Atma Tattva Vishuddhiyattam refers to knowledge that the Jivatma is an amsha of Bhagavan. And the true form that the Lord showed to him is Sadanandakana Vigraham. It is spiritual and it is concentrated bliss. When it says he showed him, it means that he made Brahma experience it. And then he taught him the 4 verses, Chatushloki. So in that way, he gave him Shabdena Anubhavena Cha. He gave him theoretical knowledge and he also gave him internal experience. Both types of knowledge he revealed. Why did he do it? So that the Atma or the Jiva can understand the truth, Tattva. So the whole idea is that so that other Jivatmas can also understand this truth. It also means he did it so that he himself, Sri Bhagavan himself, can reveal his truth. So this answers the question pertaining to the form of the Supreme Personality of God. आत्मतत्त्वस्य स्वीयतत्त्वस्य विशुद्धिर्ज्ञानं तदर्थं दशास्य विशुद्ध्यर्थम् इतिवत्. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur draws a comparison with 2.10.20, which says that there are 10 subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the 10th subject matter, it is said that the 10th subject matter is presented so that one will have a clear understanding of it in relation to the previous 9 subjects. So like that, here, Atma Tattva refers to the Supreme Lord's own nature, to make it clear. It also refers to the various elements like chitta. Chitta is contaminated consciousness, manas, mind, ankara, buddhi, and so on, which are related to the jivatma, so that they can be purified. Avyalikena vratena nishkapataya bhaktya adritaha. And the Lord did this because of Brahma's non-deceptive penance, which means his non-duplicitous devotion service. And then he quotes Kiran Swami that there's a great distinction between the Supreme Lord and the living entity. So this answers the question, what is the distinction between the Jiva's body and the Supreme Lord's body? Atmanatva is a science of both God and the living entity. Both the Supreme Lord and the living entity are known as Atma. The Supreme Lord is called Paramatma, and the living entity is called the Atma, the Brahma, or the Jiva. Both the Paramatma and the Jivatma, being transcendental to the material energy, are called Atma. So Shukadeva Goswami speaks this verse with the aim of purifying the truth of both the Paramatma and the Jivatma. Purifying the truth means clarifying the nature of the truth. Generally, people have many wrong conceptions about both of them. The wrong conception of the Jivatma is to identify the material body with the pure soul, and the wrong conception of Paramatma is to think of him on an equal level with the living entity. But both misconceptions can be removed by the one stroke of Bhakti Yoga. Just as in sunlight, both the sun and the world and everything within the sunlight are properly seen. In the darkness, one cannot see the sun, nor himself, nor the world. But in the sunlight, one can see the sun, himself, and the world around him. Srila Shukadeva Goswami therefore says that for purification of both wrong conceptions, the Lord presented his eternal form before Brahmaji, being fully satisfied by Brahma's non-deceptive vow of discharging Bhakti Yoga. Except for Bhakti Yoga, any method for realization of Atma Tattva or the science of Atma will prove deceptive in the long run. These are all points taken from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's continuous presentation about the topic of duplicity. Just give me a minute. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that only by Bhakti Yoga can one know Him perfectly. And then one can enter into the science of God. Brahmaji undertook great penance in performing Bhakti Yoga, and thus he was able to see the transcendental form of the Lord. This transcendental form is 100% spiritual, and one can see him only by spiritualized vision after proper discharge of tapasya or penance in pure Bhakti Yoga. The form of the Lord manifested before Brahma is not one of the forms with which we have experience in the material world. Brahmaji did not perform such things of penance just to see a form of material production. Therefore, the question by Maharaj Parikshit about the form of the Lord is answered. The form of the Lord is Sachidananda, or eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. But the material form of the living being is neither eternal, nor full of knowledge, nor blissful. That is the distinction between the form of the Lord and that of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, however, can regain his form of eternal knowledge and bliss simply by seeing the Lord by means of Bhakti Yoga. The summary is that due to ignorance, the conditioned soul is engaged in the temporary varieties of material forms. But the Supreme Lord has no such temporary form like the conditioned souls. It is always possessed of an eternal form of knowledge and bliss, and that is the difference between the Lord and the living entity. One can understand this difference by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Brahma was then told by the Lord the gist of Srimad Bhagavatam in four original verses. The Srimad Bhagavatam is not a creation of the mental speculators. The sound of Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental, and the resonance of Srimad Bhagavatam is as good as that of the Vedas. Thus, the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of both the Lord and the living entity. Regular reading or hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is also performance of Bhakti Yoga. And one can attain the highest perfection simply by the association of Srimad Bhagavatam. Both Shukdev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit attained perfection through the medium of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 5. Sa Adidevo Jagatam Paro Guru Swadhishnyamasthaya Sisrakshayaikshat Tam Nadhya Gachad Drishamatra Sammatam Prapancha Nirmana Vidhir Yaya Bhavet. Lord Brahma, the first spiritual master, supreme in the universe, could not trace out the source of his lotus seat. And while thinking of creating the material world, he could not understand the proper direction of such creative world, nor could he find out the process for such creation. Bhagavad Bhajanadev Tattva-jnanam ityetat prapancha yishyam Brahmano jnanam tat prasadadeveti darshayitum itihasamaha sa ityadina. It is by engagement in devotion service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that one attains knowledge, understanding, and realization of the absolute truth. Desiring to establish this, he first of all narrates the history uh, that Brahma also attained knowledge of the absolute truth only by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Paro Guru, Supreme Spiritual Master. Bhakti Rahasya Upareshta. This indicates that he is the teacher of the confidential truths pertaining to Bhakti Yoga. Previously, his seat was immersed in the water of dissolution. केवलं भगवद्रूपमेव काममयातीतम् अपि तु तल्लोकं तद्भक्ताश्च काल. No, काल. मायातीतम् अपि तु तल्लोकं तद्भक्ताश्च कालमायातीता इति दर्शयितुं चतुश्लोकीं भागवतकथां प्रस्तौति. This is an introduction to the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam known as Chatushloki. And this is presented to point out that it is not just that the form of Bhagavan is beyond Kala and Maya. The abode of Bhagavan and the devotees of Bhagavan, they are also beyond uh, the force of time and Maya, illusion. There's some question here. We also hear Gita is also spoken in 4 verses. No, Gita was not historically spoken first in 4 verses. It's just that 10.8, 9, 10, 11 are the most important part of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, that is considered Chatushloki. But with Srimad Bhagavatam, first of all, it was actually taught to Lord Brahma in 4 verses. For Lord Brahma, 4 verses are enough. You can understand the entire message of Srimad Bhagavatam and all of its details just on the basis of these 4 verses. Achyutanam Prabhu.
How to understand non-deceptive vow of non-deceptive discharge of bhakti yoga?
But it's not engaging in devotion service to the Lord for any purpose other than to please the Lord. That's all. This verse is a prelude for explaining the transcendental nature of the form and the abode of the Lord. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it has already been said that the absolute truth exists in his own abode without any touch of the deluding energy. Therefore, the kingdom of God is not a myth, but factually a different and transcendental sphere of planets known as the Vaikunthas. This will also be explained in this chapter. In this very chapter, this point will get clarified. Such knowledge of the spiritual sky far above this material sky and its paraphernalia can be known only by dint of devotion service or bhakti yoga. The power of creation by Lord Brahma was also achieved by bhakti yoga. Brahmaji was bewildered in the matter of creation, and he could not even trace out the source of his own existence. But all this knowledge was fully achieved by him through the medium of bhakti yoga. By bhakti yoga, one can know the Lord. By knowing the Lord as a supreme, one is able to know everything else. One who knows the supreme knows everything else. One who knows the supreme knows everything else. That is the version of all the Vedas. Even the first spiritual master of the universe was enlightened by the grace of the Lord. So who else can attain perfect knowledge of everything without the mercy of the Lord? If anyone desires to seek perfect knowledge of everything, he must seek the mercy of the Lord, and there's no other means. To seek knowledge on the strength of one's personal attempt is a sheer waste of time. That's some question here. Who declared that those 4 shlokas are the essence of Bhagavad Gita? Wait, 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 let me check. Check. The commentary of Vishnu checking too. Really presents the verses of the entire book. And then it presents the commentary. Chapter Shloki is chapter 10. Ashtavam Chari, Navavam Chari, दशमोऽध्यायः. Still smaller than the big. श्रीमद्गीता सर्वसारभूता भूता भूतापतापकृत् चतुश्लोकीयम् आख्याता ख्याता स सर्व विशर्मकृत्. He certainly identifies, Vishnu Chakravarti identifies these are, this is the Chatushloki within Bhagavad Gita, and it is the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Baladeva Devushan also accepts him. Now, before that, Ramanujacharya does not talk like that, Madhvacharya doesn't talk like that. But no, it's compatible with their teachings also. It's not incompatible, but definitely at least Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has identified it. I don't know if anyone prior to him has identified it. We're just 1 minute wait. Checking Keshav Kashmiri's commentary to see if he had mentioned this. Uh, no, no, he has not said also. I don't remember if Sridhar Swami says it. I doubt it though. Mm, no, no, no. Looks like Vishnu Chakravarti. At least within whatever we are able to see here. Okay, let's move on. 6. सचिन्तयन् व्यक्षरम् एकदाम्भस्युपाश्रणोद्विर्गदितं वचो विभुः स्पर्शेषु यक्षोडशमेकविंशं निष्किञ्चनानां नृपयद्धनं विदुः. While thus engaged in thinking, Brahmaji heard twice from nearby in the water 2 syllables joined together. One of the syllables was the 16th and the other the 21st of the Sparsha letters, and they joined to become the wealth of the renounced order of life. सृष्टिं चिन्तयन् कदाचित् यक्षरं वचोऽम्भसि उपाश्रणम् उपसमीपे श्रुतवान् ते अक्षरे दर्शयति कादयो मावसानः स्पर्शाः तेषु यत् षोडशं तकारः यच्च एकविंशं पकारः वचसः निर्देशार्थं तदर्थमाह. The 16th syllable refers to the letter ta. The 21st refers to pa. The sparsha letters are from ka to ma. The import of this word ta pa is then stated in the last line. Okay. Nishkinchanaam tyaktabdhanam dhanam yadviduhu yena tapodhana iti prasidhaha taccha dvirugaditam tapatapeti. For those who are nishkinchana, who have given up wealth, tapa is said to be the wealth. Therefore, they are famous as tapodhana, or those whose wealth is austerity. That word was heard twice by Brahmaji. It was pronounced twice. So Chintayaniti cha Kamaha Krishna ityadina ityadina. He Krishna Ashtadashaksharam Upadishya Tapatvam Tapat Etena Tava Siddhir Bhavishyati Ityanena Vakena Brahma Samhitayam Etad Abhisantishcha Darshitaha. This incident also appears in Brahma Samhita. There it is stated that Lord Sri Krishna had given him his Gayatri mantra, which contains 18 syllables, and instructed him, please engage in tapa. Nishkinchananam, Nishkama Bhaktanam, Yat Tad Aradhana Lakshanam Tapa Eva Dhanam. And this tapa refers to the wealth of the Nishkinchanas, which refers to the desireless devotees, devotees who have no desire for themselves. And this austerity, tapa, is characterized as a form of worship of the Supreme Lord. It is nothing but worship of the Supreme Lord. In the Sanskrit language, the consonants are divided into two groups, namely the Sparsha Varnas and the Talavya Varnas. From Ka to Ma, the letters are known as Sparsha Varnas. And the 16th of the group is Ta. Whereas the 21st letter is Pa. So when they are joined together, the word Tapa or penance is constructed. The word Tapa means penance. This penance is the beauty and wealth of the Brahmanas and the renounced order of life. According to Bhagavata philosophy, every human being is meant simply for this tapa and for no other business, because by penance only can one realize itself, and self-realization, not sense gratification, is the business of human life. This tapa or penance was begun from the very beginning of it, and it was first adopted by the supreme spiritual master, Lord Brahma. By tapasya only can one get the profit of human life, and not by a polished civilization of animal life. The animal does not know anything except sense gratification in the jurisdiction of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. But the human being is made to undergo tapasya for going back to God, back to Godhead, back home. When Lord Brahma was perplexed about how to construct the material manifestations in the universe and went down within the water to find out the means and the source of his lotus seed, he heard the word tapa vibrated twice. Taking the path of tapa is the second birth of the desiring disciple. The word upashranot is very significant. Where is it? Upashranot, heard it nearby. It is similar to upanayana, or bringing the disciple nearer to the spiritual master for the path of tapa. So Brahmaji was thus initiated by Lord Krishna. And this fact is corroborated by Brahmaji himself in his book, the Brahma Samhita. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma has sung in every verse, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Thus Brahma was initiated into the Krishna mantra by Lord Krishna himself. Thus he became a Vaishnava or a devotee of the Lord before he was able to construct a huge universe. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that Lord Brahma was initiated into the 18-letter Krishna mantra, which is generally accepted by all the devotees of Lord Krishna. We follow the same principle because we belong to the Brahma Sampradaya directly in the disciplic chain from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, from Vyasa to Madhumuni, from Madhumuni to Madhavendra Puri, from Madhavendra Puri to Ishwara Puri, from Ishwara Puri to Lord Chaitanya, and gradually to His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, our Divine Master. One who is thus initiated in the disciplic succession is able to achieve the same result or power of creation. Chanting of this holy mantra is the only shelter of the desireless pure devotee of the Lord. Simply by such tapasya or penance, the devotee of the Lord achieves all perfections like how penance differs from austerity. Sometimes the word tapas refers to penance, uh, sometimes it is translated as austerity. Basically, we have to agree to give up that which is harmful for us and accept that which is beneficial for us. Text 7. निशम्य तद्वक्त दृक्षया दिशो विलोक्य तत्रान्यत पश्यमानः स्वधिष्ण्यमास्थाय विमृश्य तद्धितं तपस्युपादिष्ट इवादते मनः. When he heard the sound, he tried to find the speaker, searching on all sides. But when he was unable to find anyone besides himself, he thought it wise to sit down on his lotus seat firmly and give his attention to the execution of penance as he was instructed. So Brahma was instructed. He was given all this instruction. He understood what was being conveyed. एवं निशम्य तस्य वचसः वक्तुर्दृक्षया ततः प्रचलितः सन्. He wanted to see who gave him that instruction. पुनः स्वधिष्ण्यम् आस्थायत. So then he came back to his own seat. केनचित् प्रत्यक्षं नियुक्त इव तच्च आत्मना हितं विमृश्य तपसि मनः धृतवान्. शम्येति तद्वक्त्र इति सम्बन्धोक्ति पाठे तं वचो निर्गतं यद्वक्त्रा तस्य तदृक्षयाति. I have been personally instructed by someone to engage in this in penance, and I've been engaged in this for my own benefit. So let me just do what is told to me. That was his thought. Yes. What about Achitana Prabhu? You had a question?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, as per last purport, our penance is chanting of the holy names, or the entire program is Prabhupada is given. That is our question.
I'm not able to hear you. Why? Is it my volume? Can you say again?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Is it audible now?
Recording in progress.
Prabhu, I was asking that as per last purport, penance for us is the entire morning program given by Prabhupada, like specifically chanting of the holy name.
All of that, the entire process of Bhakti Yoga given by Prabhupada is penance. For the transcendentalists, the transcendental practice which is given to them is penance. And if one wants to directly perceive the Supreme Lord the way Brahma perceived the Supreme Lord, he must accept this penance of Bhakti Yoga. The 64 items of sadhana bhakti, that is tapas. That includes, of course, morning program, evening program, includes preaching, includes study, includes avoiding sense enjoyment, like that. Avoiding sinful activities, avoiding offenses. 64 items.
And Prabhu,
Okay. Hmm.
one more point from fifth verse purport, where it is said that one who knows the Supreme knows everything else. So this happens
Yes.
because he is enlightened by Paramatma from within. Is
Yes.
this the import of the line?
Yes, it's a standard principle in the Upanishads. Eka Vijnanena Sarva Vijnanam. Through realizing the Supreme Absolute, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, you realize everything else. When you realize the nature of the Supreme Lord, you realize the nature of everything else.
So he becomes Sarvagya in one sense.
He becomes Sarvagya in a dependent sense. He's not the independent Sarvagya.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu.
He knows everything that he is fit to know. There's always the consideration of yogyata, eligibility. He knows everything that he is eligible to know. Like Brahma is Sarvagya. Sarvagya about what? About the Brahmanda. His particular Brahmanda. Like that. To achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma, the first living creature in the beginning of creation. After being initiated by the Supreme Lord to execute tapasya, he was fixed in his determination to do so. And although he could not find anyone besides himself, he could rightly understand that the sound was transmitted by the Lord himself. Brahma was the only living being at the time because there was no other creation and no one could be found there except him. In the beginning of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first chapter, first verse, it has already been mentioned that Brahma was initiated by the Lord from within. The Lord is within every living entity as a super soul, and he initiated Brahma because Brahma was willing to receive the initiation. The Lord can similarly initiate everyone who is inclined to have it. As already stated, Brahma is the original spiritual master for the universe. And since he was initiated by the Lord himself, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is coming down by disciplic succession. And in order to receive the real message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should approach the current link or spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession. After being initiated by the proper spiritual master in that chain of succession, one should engage himself in the discharge of tapasya in the execution of devotional service. One should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahma to be initiated directly by the Lord from inside, because in the present age, no one can be accepted to be as pure as Brahma. The post of Brahma to officiate in the creation of the universe is offered to the most pure living being. And unless one is so qualified, one cannot expect to be treated like Brahmaji directly. But one can have the same facility through unalloyed devotees of the Lord, through scriptural instructions, as revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam especially, and also through the bona fide spiritual master available to the sincere soul. Sadhu, Shastra, Guru. Here sadhu refers to sadhus within one's own sense perception, in which case the Guru will have to be taken to include the previous Gurus also. The Lord himself appears as the spiritual master to a person who is sincere in heart. about serving the Lord. Therefore, the bona fide spiritual master, if happens to meet the sincere devotee, should be accepted as the most confidential and beloved representative of the Lord. The guidance of such a bona fide spiritual has achieved the grace of the Lord. Just a minute, let me quickly check if Bhakti-vaibhava downloads them out anywhere. So, 8. Divyam sahasrabdam amogha darshana jitanilatma bhayendriyam lokatapanam tapastapiyam stapatam samahita. Brahma underwent penances for 1,000 years by the calculations of the demigods. He heard this in the sky and he accepted as divine, thus controlled his mind and senses. Penance is a great lesson for the living entities. Thus known as the greatest power accepting. Brahma heard the occult sound tapa. Sound tapa. But he did not see the person who vibrated the sound. Still, he accepted instruction and therefore he engaged in meditation for 1,000 celestial years. One celestial year is equal to 6 times 3 times of our years. His acceptance of the sound was due to his pure of the absolute truth and due to his correct interpretation of God's instruction. There is no difference between the Lord and sound vibration from him, even though he is personally present. The best accepts divine instruction. And Brahma of this process of receiving transcendental knowledge. The potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or any other revealed scripture in the world is never to be accepted as an ordinary mundane sound without transcendental potency. One has to receive the transcendental sound from the right source, accept it as the reality, and prosecute the direction without hesitation. The secret of success is to receive the sound from the right source, a bona fide spiritual master. Mundane manufactured sound has no potency, and as such, seemingly transcendental sound received from an unauthorized person also has no potency. It means one might receive a mantra from the scripture, so it is bona fide and seems to be transcendental. But if you're receiving it from somebody who's not authorized, then it will not exhibit any potency. One should be qualified enough to discern such transcendental potency, and either by discriminating or by fortunate chance, if he is able to receive the transcendental sound from the bona fide spiritual master, his path of liberation is guaranteed. The disciple, however, must be ready to execute the order of the bona fide spiritual master as Lord Brahma executed the instruction of his spiritual master, the Lord himself. Following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple, and this completely faithful execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. What is the need of controlling mind and senses to Brahmaji? Before this creation, nothing is existing. Why he needs to, unless you control your mind, you cannot execute. Unless you control your mind and senses, you cannot execute Bhagavad Bhajana, service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, you'll be thinking about all other things. Brahma also was thinking about creation and so on. So when he executed devotional service, he was focused on the Supreme Lord alone. The disciple, okay, Lord Brahma controlled his two grades of senses, namely his senses of perception and his organs of action, because he had to engage them in the execution of the order of the Lord. The Lord's order descends in disciplic succession. It descends in disciplic succession through the bona fide spiritual master. And thus, execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is factual control of the senses. Such execution of penance in full faith and sincerity made Brahmaji so powerful that he became the creator of the universe. And because he was able to attain such power, he's called the best amongst all the tapasvis. It's 9. Tasmai swalokam Bhagavan sabhajitaha sandarshayamasa param nayat param vyapeta sanklesha vimoha sadhvasam swadrishtavadbhir purushairavishkutam. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. Tasmai Brahmane Swalokam Vaikunthakyam. So he showed him his own abode known as Vaikuntha. It is the supreme abode. There is nothing superior to it. Tammeva lokam anuvarnayati panchabhihi. And it is that very abode which is now going, which will be explained in, which will be described in 5 verses. Swadrishtavadbhihi. By those who have perfectly realized the self. It is adored by all self-realized persons. Those who have attained spiritual piety. Bhagavad Avirbhava Sarthayir Dashabhi. Yoga Goswami notes that in 10.5 verses, the revelation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described. So when Lord Brahma, he was situated on the lotus that came from the Purusha known as Narayana, Sri Narayana. So when he executed austerities that satisfied Lord Sri Narayana, then having come under the affectionate control of Brahma because of his devotional service, he revealed his most excellent abode known as Vaikuntha. He completely showed it. Sandarshayamasa. Where is it? Sandarshayamasa. Completely showed it. Yataha Vaikunthat param, anyat Vaikuntha param, shreshtam na vidyate. Parama Bhagavad Vaikunthatva. This was the supreme abode, Vaikuntha. It is not different from the truth referred to as Brahman. Swarupa Shakti Vishesha Avishkarena Maya Anavritam Tadeva Tadrupam. So when he reveals his personal potency and shows himself to be uncovered by Maya, that is his form. It is seen by those who are uh, free from the five kinds of material afflictions, free from all kinds of miseries. Five kinds of material afflictions: avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. These are the five. Ignorance, uh, the sense of false identification, raga, attraction, dvesha, repulsion, abhinivesha, obsessions. Vimoha, illusion, sadvasam, fear. So those who are devoid of all this, uh, they are able to worship this place. There's also a reference to Vaikuntha in 3.16.27 to 28. Those who are self-realized, they are able to see. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that this abode of the Lord refers to Mahavaikuntha. Illusion here in this regard refers to the absence of realization of the Supreme Law. Sadhvasam or fear refers to fear of serving him, seva para, fear of offending him while serving him. Where is the Buddha? The troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma were certainly in the line of devotion, service, bhakti. Otherwise, there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Swalokam, the Lord's personal abode, would become visible to Brahmaji. The personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mythical nor material as conceived by the impersonalists. But realization of the transcendental abodes of the Lord is possible only through devotional service, and thus the devotees enter into such abodes. There is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing Bhakti Yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance and other processes of self-realization, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. There is no profit in beating husks without grain. Similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penances for self-realization other than the penances in Bhakti Yoga. Executing Bhakti Yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. For Lord Brahma was seated there. Brahmaji was able to please the Lord. And the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the comments of his Kramasandharva annotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, cites quotations from Vridaranyaka Upanishad, Vedic evidence. It is said that Yagyavalkya described the transcendental abode of the Lord to Gargi, and that the abode of the Lord is situated above the highest planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka. This abode of the Lord, although described in revealed scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, remains only a myth for the less intelligent class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Herein, the word Swadrishtavadbhi is very significant. One who has actually realized his self realizes the transcendental form of his self. Impersonal realization of the self and the supreme is not complete because it is just an opposite conception of material personalities. The personality of Godhead And the personalities of devotees of the Lord are all transcendental, and they do not have material bodies. The material body is overcast with five kinds of miserable conditions, namely ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. As long as one is overwhelmed by these five kinds of material miseries, there's no question of entering into the Vaikuntha lokas. The impersonal conception of one's self is just the negation of the material personality and is far from the positive existence of personal form. The personal forms of the transcendental abode will be explained in the following verses. Brahmaji also described the transcendental planet of the Vaikuntha lokas as Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as a cowherd boy, keeping transcendental Surabhi cows and surrounded by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Chintamani Prakarsadmasukalpa Viksha Lakshavriteshu Surabhiravipaalayantam Lakshmi Sahasrashata Sambrama Sevyavanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma Samhita 5.29. A statement of the Bhagavad Gita, Yadgatwana Nivartanti Tadhama Paramam Mama, is confirmed herewith. Paramam means the transcendental Brahman. Therefore, the abode of the Lord is also Brahman, non-different from the Supreme Personality of God. The Lord is known as Vaikuntha, and his abode is also known as Vaikuntha. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and senses. Jiva Goswami is taking it from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Guru is quoting Jiva Goswami. The virus comes and then we'll talk about this. I'll check my video. Okay, right. Must be coming. It must be coming. Param. It's not typed up. There's a portion here which is missed out. Okay. I just now looked at Jiva Goswami's presentation about that Brihadaranyaka Upanishad portion about conversation between Yagyavalkya and Gargi. This is what he's actually saying. I'm reading from Krama Sandarbha. There's nothing beyond Vaikuntha. There's no other Vaikuntha beyond this Vaikuntha. This being the supreme Vaikuntha, Parama Bhagavad Vaikunthatvat. Atra Paramna yat paramityatra athahainam gargi vachaknavi papracha ityadihi Upanishad udaharya. In this regard, the portion from the Upanishad, he's referring to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the conversation between Yagyavalkya and Gargi about that which is not, there's nothing which is superior to this. That portion can be taken as an instance. Atra hi antariksha lokadi prajapati loka paryanta prashnanam uttarani gargyai Yagyavalkyo dattva. Here Yagyavalkya gave answers to Gargi, when she questioned about uh, the abodes from uh, the the abodes from the ones that are in Antariksha, outer space, all the way up to the world of Prajapati. Brahmalokakhya Bhagavallokad api upari prishtavatyai. And then when she asked about the world above the world of Bhagavan known as Brahmaloka, tasyai na ati prakshi ityadina shapam datum udyataha. Then Yagyavalkya, he said, "You are asking too much." And he was about to curse her.